Contemporary cinema consistently borrows from the ideological and practical frameworks of the film movements that came into eminence during the early and mid-20th century. As a director, Wes Anderson is often referred to as an auteur. However, his work, a creative collaborative process, is heavily influenced by French New Wave. French New Wave focused on creating something new and changing the way in which films were made, instead of having a clear set of stylistic rules. Anderson's 2014 film, The Grand Budapest Hotel, shot by Robert Yeoman and edited by Barney Pilling, combines innovative storytelling, editing, and filming techniques to construct an artistic expression of Anderson's personal style. Through his use of humour and visual storytelling techniques, Wes Anderson artfully incorporates stylistic elements pertaining to French New Wave and the quirky sensibility in The Grand Budapest Hotel. The film can be categorized within the quirky sensibility, coined by critics to describe the tonal and structural properties of indie filmmaking in the 1990s and 2000s. Its approach to comedy can be described as a visual style that courts a thematic interest in childhood and innocence, balancing ironic detachment with sincere engagement. Anderson uses subtle comedic moments throughout the film, as seen when the police try to arrest Gustave. This subtle humour is iconic to Anderson's style, reflecting the beliefs and core values of the New Wave. Whitney Crothers Dilly reinforces the way Anderson is influenced by this movement, stating, "Anderson still prefers traditional, old-fashioned filming techniques, many times deliberately borrowing his mise-en-scène from the French New Wave." This is also an example of how Anderson, although considered an auteur, actually worked closely with his team to develop his quirky style. Anderson lists Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger's work as major influences during film's conceptual and production processes. The Red Shoes and its lead actor Anton Walbrook served as costuming inspiration for Ralph Fiennes' character. Similarly, Anderson borrowed narrative structure elements from The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. The film itself is a reflection of pre- and post-wartime Europe, modelled closely on Ernest Lubitsch's The Shop Around the Corner, encapsulating what Andrew Sarris referred to as the Lubitsch torch, a counterpoint of poignant sadness during film's gayest moments. In its fictional anachronistic setting, the story echoes themes of loss and reinvention with characters whose world had vanished long before they even entered it, adding a layer of emotional complexity to the story, reminiscent of Lubitsch, Truffaut, and Godard's work. As an artist and visual storyteller, Anderson also develops a symbolic element within his film's visual style, using colour and set design to communicate as much distinction as possible in time and narrative shifts throughout the film. The director's manipulation of mise-en-scène to build meaning is seen when the hotel decor and colour scheme changes. Purple and red in 1932, sugary pink and grey in the Nazi era, orange and green in the 1960s. This distinct visual approach to storytelling not only embellishes the film's narrative, but artfully communicates themes present in the film. Robert Yeoman has worked closely with Wes Anderson across 8 of his feature works. Together they have developed an iconic cinematic style reminiscent of theatre productions. The Grand Budapest Hotel is not an outlier in this regard. However, the cinematography does have stylistic choices that are unique from Anderson's other films that adapt to differing periods in film history. The Grand Budapest Hotel primarily takes place between the 3 different time periods, 1985, 1968, and 1932. Robert Yeoman was able to give visual context to the current time frame into each scene through deviations in the film's aspect ratio. This works because throughout the history of film, different aspect ratios have passed through popularity for various reasons, leaving certain aspect ratios to be associated with distinctive time periods. For example, scenes that take place in 1932 are filmed in a 1.37:1, while scenes that take place in 1985 are shot in the much more modern aspect ratio of 1.85:1. To further this, scenes that take place in 1968 are filmed with an anamorphic lens, a lens made popular in the 1950s to have a 2.35:1 ratio on 35mm film. In addition to the director and cinematographer, the editor plays a key role in the filmmaking process. The Grand Budapest Hotel was edited by Barney Pilling, who contributes a keen talent for emphasizing sound to complement a scene. This is highlighted in the scene where a prison guard checks gifts for contraband, in which all sound was added in post and heightened for comedy. By examining the conventions of editing he follows, it is clear he has been influenced by the editing of French New Wave films. This is seen particularly because of the rule-breaking approach he takes to cutting a scene. Traditionally, films would be edited formulaically. Older Hollywood films strictly abided to the rules of continuity editing. This meant following the 30-degree rule, which advises that each cut's next shot should shift at least 30 degrees to avoid noticing a change in a character's position. Alternatively, French New Wave films such as Jean-Louis Godard's Breathless would utilize more unconventional cuts, as storytelling is prioritized over continuity. Throughout the Grand Budapest Hotel, there are various instances where Pilling would disregard continuity. Look at the scene of Zero and Gustave hugging. Arms on Zero's shoulders, cut arms beside his waist. Usually, if two shots were similar, there would be a transitional cut to mask this. But in French New Wave fashion, Pilling has decided timing, story, and emotion take precedence over continuity. In summary, the Grand Budapest Hotel, heavily influenced by the French New Wave, breaks away from the filmmaking conventions, constructing a stylistically innovative narrative through the artistic collaboration of the director, cinematographer, and editor.